Your job is to be as you, authentic and unique as possible so that you can experience experiences that only you can experience. You have to feel yourself at your core, and then everything you do from that point of that truthful core will be Dharma, will be your dream, will be divine work, right? Regardless of what you do. But if you focus on the what and not on the being of you, then you sort of have the equation backwards. Live your dreams, follow your heart. Otherwise, you actually cockblock God. You actually defeat the whole purpose of your existence. Can I really fulfill my dreams? It's like, yes, you fucking can. Like, you only have those dreams and those beliefs and that desire and that pull towards it because you genuinely can. And until you realize that and believe that and do it, you're not gonna be fucking done. Like, it's inevitable. Like, you have to, one way or another, one day or another, one lifetime or another, do those things and achieve your dreams. Being God is actually really boring. In the sense that if you think about it, like if you really were this all-powerful, omnipotent, everything, everywhere, all at once being, you know, and you can do everything, and you know everything that's happened and will happen, and you're just all-time pervasive, all existence in every facet of the, you know, of the universe. There's like no surprises, there's nothing to do, right? Everything's been done. You're at this like constant state of like absolute stasis, or it's like absolute chaos of absolutely everything, that there's nothing. It's interesting to make bread when you only have a few ingredients, right? You only have like water, yeast, salt, flour, right? But it's like if I added every single ingredient possible on the planet into that bread, it would taste like absolutely fucking nothing. It would be absolute chaos, that bread, right? It wouldn't taste good. Or imagine if you mixed all the colors of paint together and you use that color on a canvas that's exactly the same color. Like, that's God, right? Like, there's nothing there. Like, it's everything. Literally every color, everything imaginable is there. But it's like when it's everything on everything all the fucking time, you have nothing. You have no gain. You have nothing. You have no thing, basically. So as God, you're like, but you know, at the same time, maybe that doesn't actually feel bad. Like maybe, maybe like, maybe that feels like kind of good, or I don't know, you don't feel anything, I suppose. But maybe just one time in your existence of your infinitude through all aeons and infinities and multiverses and multi-dimensions, maybe just for one instance, you had this crazy idea. You're like, oh, what if I like don't do that? What if I don't be everything everywhere all at once all the time, but if I could be something somewhere at once? What if I limit the absolute chaos and everything as that I am, and I put it into like more specialized containers? What if I limit myself into like little containers, little units of consciousness, right? You know, whether that's a human being or a dolphin or a bacteria or a planet or a fourth dimensional DMT elf, like whatever, right? What if I limit myself just so I can have some sort of experience, just so I can experience somethingness? I can have a linear progression, a linear story, so not everything is happening all at once, right? One frame at a time, right? Then you have a movie. But if it's all the frames all at once of all movies in one instance, in one moment, then there's no movies. There's nothing to see, right? You limit that awesomeness of you, that omnipotence, that all-pervasiveness into human beings, for example, just so you can have the experience of experiencing something. That's essentially why we exist, just to experience. So in my first chapter, it's called Finger Puppets of God. Essentially, it's like, you know, imagine you are God and you're just floating in infinite space, right? You know, if we were to personify God as a human being, it's just you. There's nothing else. You know everything. You feel everything, right? But let's say you're like, oh, I'm kind of bored. Let's play a game with myself, right? So you use your left finger and your right finger, and you have this like finger puppet story. You're like, hey left finger, hey right finger, I love you, ma ma ma. And you have a kissy little adventure. But you know, it's just you playing with yourself, right? It's not that interesting. So then it's like, well, maybe I'll make it more interesting. I'll put my consciousness in this finger, and I'll put my consciousness in this finger, so I can experience what this finger is like, like first person. Then it's like, whoa, you're actually experiencing it first person. But it's still you, it's still just you. Even though it's first person, it's still just you. Right? So then you forget, you have to make the fingers, your consciousness in the fingers, forget that they were you in the first place. So they really believe this finger, right, this part of you, this character it's embodying, right, this finger puppet, this avatar, really believes it is what it is, living out the story that it's living out. It's not just a story that you've given it, but it believes it's going through its own genuine story. And then you make some stages and planets for these finger puppets to live on, right? Adam and Eve, essentially. That's the first two puppets, the first two egos, the first two avatars, renditions, fractals of God. And because you have two of them, it's like basically there's two of you. You split yourself into two, and you're able to have like two different experiences, which is great, which is more than one, and that's kind of cool. But even with only two, that gets boring after a while, right? It's like you have two pieces of Lego. Like how many ways can you stack two pieces of Lego together before it gets kind of boring? So what do? Then you keep making more and more pieces. More, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, blah, 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 until it becomes basically infinite again, like trillions, decillions, googillions of pieces of consciousness all throughout the universe, throughout different stages and different dimensions and different levels of consciousness, like every single fucking axis, the X, Y, Z, fourth dimension, 5th dimension, like every dimension that you spread yourself through. You make finger puppets. And then those pieces are able to experience themselves together. And therefore, you create the God game. AKA the Matrix, AKA the illusion of separation. That everything is separated, but it's ultimately just you at the end of the day. It's just you having a game with yourself, having a play with yourself. So you get to be something, to have a story, to be a real boy. To not just be an observer, living vicariously, but to like really bona fidely, like viscerally embody reality. Like the gift of reality, to be real, to be human, to exist, to have limitations, to feel, is like the most divine privilege you could have. So we're just here to experience things. And what makes an experience real is the feelings that we get from the experiences. Therefore, we're just here to feel. Like feelings are like those, like every flavor Harry Potter jelly beans, right? Like some of the flavors are kind of gross and kind of shocking. But you have the jelly beans, you eat it with your friends, and maybe you like pick up a gross flavor, but then you're like, oh, this is so gross, this is like barf flavor. And your friends are like, ha ha, you ate the barf flavor, right? Like, like even though you had a negative experience or a bad flavor, it was still a good experience because you got to share a little laugh with your friends, right? And basically that's every experience and every feeling in life, like all the ups and all the downs. Like we specifically created ourselves and Earth just to have the ups and downs. So as long as you're experiencing things and you're experiencing things and feeling your feelings from them, you're basically like living the height of God. And it's like it doesn't matter what you do. Like even if people think it's weird or cringe, like sometimes the most spiritual thing for you to do is to be cringe because that's your unique way of having an experience that no one else can have, right? It's like you're expanding the experiences of human consciousness, but you're basically expanding the consciousness of God in a way, or like you're allowing God to have more of an experience. Like you are a soldier of God sent into physical reality to experience, right? That's your purpose, that's your role. Like at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter what your actual life mission is, like everything is an experience, right? So as long as you're able to experience experiences, you're doing the job. But everyone is unique and everyone has their own unique experiences to go through. So what's important is you have the experiences that only you can have because no one else can have it, right? So it's like you have a job that's specifically assigned for you. So you have to do your job essentially. And your job is to be as you and authentic and unique as possible so that you can experience experiences that only you can experience. Like authenticity is the height of spiritual development and self-development. Feeling your feelings is like uploading content to God. It's like you going out there, going on experiences, finding the treasures, and then bringing the treasures back, right? When you feel your feelings, that's you bringing the treasures back. The ultimate distillation of existence and experience. So going through experiences is like getting raw footage. And then when you're aware of your feelings from those experiences, it's like watching back the footage, right? But then actually feeling the feelings in your body and like being honest with like your present moment, I suppose, and yourself, like fully accepting who you are, where you are, how you feel right now. Like that's essentially like uploading the content back to God, and then you get rewarded and prizes for your duties. And that's basically what my chapter called Excavation Theory is about. It's like, if you imagine every single person, it's like they have their own mine, like a gold mine, or a map that they have to go through in order to explore the territory and slay all the monsters to find all the treasures, right? So you have your mine that you need to go in there and you need to excavate the gold, right? The experiences, the feelings. And everyone has a different mine. And your job, your only role is to go into your mind and mine for your experiences and feel those feelings. And the only way for you to, like, I guess, make real progress in your life is to experience those experiences and feel those feelings. Like, if there's a part of the mind that you haven't excavated, that you need to get to the next part, then you have to go in there, have those experiences, feel those feelings, finish that stage essentially, right, before you can move on. Like, that's why you might have a lot of repeated experiences in your life with like similar themes or similar people in similar settings. And the only reason those people keep coming back into your life is because there's an experience or a feeling there that you haven't fully extracted, that you haven't fully excavated. That's why it keeps coming back. So, as long as you are honest and earnest with your exploration and yourself, I suppose, and you really live your life that you want to live, and have the courage to do the things you really want to do, and take the hits and feel the feelings that come with it, then you're doing the most divine work essentially. You're doing God's work. The more feelings you don't feel that you've had from your experiences, the more your system gets clogged. Like, feeling your feelings in a way is like digesting your experiences. But it's like, if you never feel your feelings and you're constantly just doing stuff and running away from your feelings, then your soul and your entire system, your whole avatar gets heavier and heavier. Because you've accumulated so many feelings and so much energy that you need to feel and upload back to God, right? You need to clear the cache, so to speak. You need to deposit the money into the bank. You don't want to carry like, wads of cash in your wallet, right? You're just going to get heavy. And then your life is going to feel heavier and heavier, right? And it's like, a lot of times I feel like this is one reason why when we become adults and the more we grow up, the heavier we feel. And it's not because it's just a natural symptom of being an adult, but it's because we've gone through so much shit that we haven't dealt with, that our soul feels heavy. That's why we feel heavy. But if you really slow down, stop hustling and trying to like prove yourself and achieve things and, do things with your ego and process those feelings, then you will feel light again. You'll return to a childlike state. And like the more you don't face those feelings, the more you have to do things to cope with the pain of not living in your true state, in your true self, right? You're gonna be addicted to like shows, porn, Netflix, like whatever, social media, of course, scrolling, right? The more your body feels uncomfortable because your feelings are in your body, the more your body feels uncomfortable, the more you do things to stay in your head and imprisoned in your head just to avoid those feelings. But you'll never truly feel good and at peace until you go into your body and feel those feelings. And there's like a lot of ways nowadays to sort of deal with the feelings, like somatic exercises, breath work, like meditation, of course, or just like general yoga, general exercise and just moving your body to get yourself back into your body. Like self-massage, like fascia work, like a lot of work in that sort of area is like coming forward now. It's really prominent. and I feel like it's really good because those things really will get you into your body, deal with your shit. You know, not just on an intellectual level that you get from talk therapy, but really somatically on a true embodied level, deal with those things that are inside you. Like once you do, then it's like catharsis and release, like a revival of the phoenix within you. Oh, and also you have infinite chances to complete the experiences that really are for you. Like even if you run away from your feelings and run away from your truth for a real long time, you basically, I believe, you won't die until you genuinely have all the experiences that you're meant to have experienced. Like even if other people say they regret X, Y, and Z, it's like that's just a story of an external thing to you to reflect back something within yourself. But ultimately, your life is your own, and what happens in your life only you know. And I genuinely believe you have like infinite chances to actually do the experiences that you need to do. Like you have infinite lives, right? It's like no matter how many times you die in Mario, if you just keep trying, the game will just keep letting you play, right? It's not like it's just game over and the game cartridge explodes and you can't play anymore, right? As long as you keep trying, like you're destined to realize your dreams and everything you need to do in this life. So don't worry so much about failing or missing out. Like you can't miss out on the things that really are meant for you. But you do still have to try and do something, you know, meet the universe halfway. And it's like you can't even run away from your dreams. Like your dreams will almost at a certain point hunt you and chase you down for you to do them. Right? Once an experience has been completed and the feelings have been felt, then you'll need to move on from those experiences. If you try and stay there in that comfort zone again to try and get that same hit, you're not going to anymore. So you have to move on. Otherwise, you'll stagnate. If we see it on a spectrum, like once you've sort of had an experience on this side of the spectrum, you'll normally want to experience the other side of the spectrum. So for example, if you're normally like a very disciplined person and you stick to a routine and you know you got your shit together, so to speak, but you have no spontaneity in your life, you don't let sort of life happen to you, you're always trying to control everything, then after a long time of being disciplined, you might need to take a break from those experiences and go to the other side of the spectrum and have experiences where you're just free and try and be a child again, right? But also, it's like if you've been like a hot mess, like a hippie child or wanderlust person that has no discipline, then after some time of all the excessive freedom, you might actually seek or want to or crave a life and have the experience of more steadfastness and discipline and steadiness and stability in your life. And basically, we're just constantly going through the two extremes until we find some sort of balance within ourselves. Essentially, like the entire spectrum is one level experience, and the only way to finish the whole spectrum is you got to go back and forth the spectrum to like clear everything, like get all the treasures from the spectrum. And essentially, it's like, especially when you're in a bad state in your life, like to not reject the fact that you feel bad or you feel like a loser or you feel this and that, but it's like to fully accept that part of you, even if you don't think people like it, you know, even if from like a societal perspective, it's seen as bad. It's like, there is no bad, there is no good. It's all just subjective human judgment. But you can fully accept yourself in any state you're in and give yourself love and acceptance unconditionally, right? And sometimes you have to genuinely embrace a loser part of you. Like you have to go through like a loser stage, a loser stage of your life and fully experience that in order to get to your winning stage. But if you keep denying yourself of the bottom, if you keep preventing yourself and not letting yourself genuinely fall and rest into the void, you know, if that is an experience you need to have, then you're not able to like clear that side of the spectrum and rubber band and ricochet back onto the good side, right? So regardless of what side you're in, what's important is you fully accept that you are there right now. Love yourself, accept those feelings, and have that experience, fully milk that experience, and then you'll move forward. Like sometimes you have to do the wrong things to know the right things. And if you always avoid doing the wrong things, then sometimes you may not actually get to the right things. Like ultimately, just being able to experience and feel is already like a divine privilege that we often take for granted. So even when you're feeling bad, even when you're feeling sad, just the fact you can feel something and hit you so viscerally inside of your soul, like there's appreciation to be found for that, you know? Like if you can appreciate your experience and all the feelings within you, like just like you're tasting different flavors of ice cream, even, you know, or the different flavors of jelly beans, like even if it's a shocking jelly bean, you can still enjoy it and appreciate it. And once you're able to appreciate your experience and the feelings, even if they're bad experiences or bad feelings, then you finish and you accept God, basically, in that stage of your life. And you clear the stage. Earth is called Earth because it's earthy. Like there's a solidity and a hardness to the experiences that a soul feels on Earth. But that's precisely what makes it so interesting and so juicy. Like if there wasn't that contrast of difficulty, then achieving things or doing things or feeling certain things wouldn't feel as intense. It wouldn't be as juicy. You know, like doing a backflip on flat ground is more interesting and it's more of an accomplishment than doing it on like a really bouncy trampoline, right? Like even though it's easy to do it on a trampoline, like the achievement or the feeling that you get from doing it might not feel as cool if you can just like whoop out a backflip on flat ground, right? So Earth is the flat ground. It's like the very baseline level of reality where you really get to experience everything at a very like foundational level. The limitations and the challenges of being in this high gravity planet in a way is what makes it fun, right? It's like you see this in video games where like, you know, like if it's like Pokemon or something, they have all of these like different ways to make the game harder. Like it's like called like Nuzlocke or Kaizo, or like, you know, you can only do certain things within the game. You know, you can't heal, you can't use armor, you can't use like good weapons, you can't do X, Y, and Z, just to put limitations onto the game to make it interesting. Because once the game gets too easy and it's not challenging, then it's not interesting. So you put handicaps and limitations to make it interesting. Essentially, that's Earth. Like we are infinite godlike beings, right? But we've put ourselves in limited forms in a limited stage that limits us so that we can have a more interesting experience. Like it's more interesting to achieve something after you've taken so much time and effort to finally beat the game, to beat the challenge, to defeat the boss, right? To overcome that obstacle. Like once you finally achieve it, it's like this ultimate feeling of euphoria. Like, oh my god, holy shit, like, I finally fucking did it, right? Whereas it's like if you just beat everything the first time with no effort, it's almost like, what's the point? So essentially, despite all the challenges and the difficulty and the negativity that we might face on Earth, at the core, we undisputably, undeniably signed up for this shit because it's what gets us off. From a godlike level, God is very kinky. And this is where permission slips come in. Like, because we literally are God, and we have everything available to us, which makes it boring, we've chosen to limit ourselves, and the way that we unlimit ourselves is through a thing called permission slips, which is from, this is an idea from Bashar. Basically, permission slips are the thing that bridges you from where you are to where you want to be. All right, so it's like, oh, right now I feel dirty and I want to take a shower. So then the permission slip, the bridge to get you to a feeling of clean is the shower. Basically, it's the idea that you have to like do something in order to get something, to unlock something. Like permission slips and limitation creates the experience of unlocking things. And we all know how fun unlocking things in a video game is, right? Like that's what makes it so addictive. So when we put the limits in and we have to do things to get the thing rather than just having everything in the entire universe right from the beginning, that's what makes it fun. We get to unlock new weapons and skills and relationships and what have you. Yeah, like I wrote, it's like, it's like you can go to the arcade with all your friends, and you can you can play video games for like 3 hours and get 10,000 tickets to buy a prize you really want, because you want to give that prize to a friend that your friend group is trying to surprise that gift with for their birthday party or whatever, right? Like, and it's like this cool little like quest that you guys are going on. You could do that, right? Or you could just like go to Temu and buy the bloody teddy bear for like $9 or something, right? Like, like you'll get the same thing, but the experience, the journey of getting it is going to be different. And ultimately, the journey is what we're here for. And basically, the permission slip in itself is the experience, right? It's what makes the journey a journey. If there's no permission slip and you wanted to go from A to B instantly, then you'll instantly just get from A to B. Like, oh, I feel dirty and I'm sweaty. I want to feel clean. Boop, I'm clean. You don't get to have the experience of a shower or diving into the ocean and having that refreshing feeling of like being cleansed by the water, or diving into the clean, cool lake, or the onsen or whatever, right? Like, the permission slips give you a journey, a game to go through. At the same time, the more you go through the experiences of using certain permission slips, the more you graduate from using those permission slips. Then eventually you need less and less permission slips until things do become almost instantaneously. It becomes miraculous again, because you've literally extracted and excavated all the experiences of limitation, that eventually the experiences that are left out are the experiences of unlimitation, right? Essentially, the God game is you going from absolutely not like God, because that's more interest, because God is always God. So when you're not like God, it's almost like the most interesting thing, right? But the more you experience not being like God, the more you finish the experiences of limitation and you go back to being God. So the more experiences and the more permission slips you go through and you graduate and outgrow, the more divine and like superhero-like you become. Sometimes people sort of like get really comfortable with a certain permission slip because it's felt really good for a really long time. And they refuse to like let it go and like, I guess like evolve into God, right? Then that's a problem. Then you become stagnant and you're gonna feel certain effects and illnesses fall upon you. So it's really important that you recognize once you've graduated a permission slip / experience, you have to be willing to let go out into the unknown again, and like keep walking into the unknown of your map, right? Don't just stay in your comfort zone where things has always worked. Like once your comfort zone has been fully excavated, you have to go into the discomfort unknown zone. And that's the only way for you to grow. But then because it's like uncomfortable and it's scary, this is the part of like courage and faith. That's when that comes in. You have to have the courage to sort of dive into the unknown, follow your heart, and see where it takes you, and have the faith that things will work out. But also, if you really need to use a permission slip, then use it. Don't feel like you're too cool to use a permission slip because other people don't need to use it, right? It's like if you really need training wheels for your bike to learn how to ride the bike, then use the bloody training wheels, right? Don't be like, oh, I'm too good for the training wheels, and you try and skip that experience, right? Skip that permission slip, bypass a part of your destiny, essentially. Like needing to use more or less more permission slips isn't better or worse than needing to use less. Like, essentially, it's all about being honest with yourself and what you need and how you feel, and fully accepting that, and then doing what genuinely feels right, rather than trying to be something you're not. You went from riding a bike with training wheels, to your dad holding the bike while you ride, to you being able to ride the bike by yourself, to you not even needing to use handlebars to ride the bike, right? You need less and less things for you to ride the bike. Eventually, you don't even need to ride the bike. You can just fly. Eventually, you don't even need to fly. You can just teleport. Eventually, you don't even need to just teleport because you can have everything you need from the location you need to teleport to in the first place anyway, instantly in front of you. Then bam, 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 bam. What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets? No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to. Permission slips also give reality deniable plausibility, in the sense that when something happens in your life, there's a reason, there's a backstory, there's a permission slip that's made it reasonable for that thing to happen, right? Like, oh, I worked a job so I got money, and therefore I could use that money to buy the thing I want, right? Like, there's a sequence of events, there's a storyline in which you're able to get the thing you want. But if you suddenly just got the thing you want the moment you wished for it, and it just like materialized in thin air, then it sort of breaks the game, right? It sort of breaks the story. Like, imagine, you know, you're watching a story, like a TV show or movie or something, right? Or you're reading a book, and like there wasn't a story. There was just basically, oh, here's a guy, he has a problem, and then the next moment the problem is solved. The end. Essentially, it's like good writing from angels. It's like your angels are writing a good story for your life where things are believable and it's cohesive, right? It's not this like abrupt storytelling. It's like a cohesive, flowy story. Well, at least in the beginning anyway. But then the more you level up, the more crazy the story becomes, and the less believable it would be to a past version of you. Like, basically, the more you graduate permission slips, the more your consciousness expands, the more you believe is possible, and then more things can happen in your life in seemingly impossible ways. Basically, miracles become the norm at a certain point. And that's not a bad thing in terms of like you have to go through all of these like little things to get to your goal, right? Like that's sort of, I mean, again, the whole point. But at the same time, you can sort of like take advantage of this mechanic. It's like if you know that you don't, your consciousness isn't evolved yet to believe that you can just have this unbelievable thing and that you have to do certain things in order to get the thing. Like you genuinely believe that, right? That's okay. It's like if you genuinely believe in a certain limitation, even if another person says you don't have to, it's like, well, fuck the other person, they're not you. If you want to be limited by a limitation, then you have to own that and have that experience. And you're probably saying, oh, I don't want to be limited by my limitations. But you do. Deep down you do, because there's an experience there that you want to experience. So if you know there's a limitation within you, and there's a belief of limitation, then just full send that limitation and belief. It's like if you genuinely believe you need to do A, B, and C to get to D, then do A, B, and C. Like, don't be like, oh, but other people say I don't have to do that, or I don't want to admit that I'm so weak and I have to use these permission slips to get to D when other people don't have to. It's like, no, if you genuinely believe you need to do certain things, then you need to do it in order for you to move on. Like, don't copy other people, don't listen to other people. Like, they can say all of this shit to you, and some of it might be helpful, for sure. But at the end of the day, you have to touch base with yourself and feel what you genuinely believe and what you need. And then you can stack these permission slips together to eventually build the belief that you need to actually get the thing. And then you'll get the thing. And then maybe in the future you need less permission slips. But unless you admit to yourself what you really need and do them, you're not going to be able to get to the point where you don't need them, essentially. Like Bruce Lee said, the highest technique is no technique, right? So you start with trying all of these gimmicks and things and trying to do things, but in the end, once everything is done, you sort of synthesize all of it into like very simple applications that is the most effective. That's essentially what you're trying to get to. But sometimes you have to go through all the gimmicks and all the techniques and try everything in order to get to that final distilled, efficient version. If you just try and skip to that perfected version without going through the experimentations and the trials, then you might not be able to get there. Another Bruce Lee quote is like, it's like a finger pointing to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you'll miss all the heavenly glory. Essentially meaning, don't focus on the permission slip. Don't get so attached to the permission slip that you forget why you're using it in the first place. Like getting to the destination is sort of the point of using the permission slip. But if you like get so fixated and obsessed about the permission slip and you don't let yourself actually move towards the destination, then it's like you're like cock blocking yourself, right? You're shooting yourself in the foot. You know, it's like, oh, I need to wear these like hiking boots and have all this equipment so that I can climb the mountain and get to top of Mount Everest, right? But it's like, if you're like at base camp, like fucking jizzing over how cool your boots are and like trying to sell everyone the fact that you have the best boots and the best tent and the best equipment, right? It's like, cool, great, but you still have to like climb the fucking mountain, right? It's not about the equipment. The equipment is for sure a part of the experience, but if you fixate everything on the equipment and not the actual like fucking journey, right, then you lose the whole point of why you're there in the first place, right? You know, it doesn't matter if it's a finger telling you to go look at the moon or someone with a telescope or a laser telling you to go look at the moon. It's like at the end of the day, whatever it takes you to look at the moon and witness a heavenly glory, that's the point, is to experience the heavenly glory, to have the full experience and feel the feelings of the glory within you. That's what's important. So in that sense, a person may feel just as fulfilled playing video games if that's genuinely their moon, their heavenly glory, like their fate, their dharma, right? As someone that might be like climbing Mount Everest, for example, right? Like everyone sort of has their own compass that points to God, that points to the divine and to their truth. But like regardless of like what you do, you know, whether it's video games or business or outdoor activities or what have you, right? Like as long as you can get to your sense of fulfillment, for example, in this example, that's all that matters. Even if someone's like, oh, you're being a nerd playing video games, but it's like, well, I genuinely feel like I'm fulfilling my fucking destiny playing video games, then you have to play video games. Like the fulfillment you get from playing video games might be the same fulfillment as someone that gets from climbing Mount Everest. So, and it's not about video games gives a person fulfillment or not, or climbing Mount Everest, but it's about finding the activity, finding the things you need to do to give yourself the feeling of fulfillment. It's what's right for you to get to the heavenly glory. It's not the external thing, but the internal feeling and the experiences that you're experiencing within. That's the moon. That's the heavenly glory. The thing doesn't matter. It's about how you feel at the end of the day. That's the idea of this chapter. Dharma is your main storyline. It's the mind that you've chosen to excavate. It's your divine duty, mission, dream, heart's desire, soul's calling, personal legend, destiny, fate, etc., etc. Realizing your dreams, or like what you genuinely want to do in this life, is doing your dharma, is doing the God's work, basically. Because you're literally being yourself. You're following your heart, your intuition, your truth. You're excavating your mind and having the experiences that only you can have. That's you playing the God game to its utmost limit, the utmost perfection, right? And like you would only have the desires you have. You would only have the dreams you have, be who you are, have the talent and abilities and the parents and the circumstances that you had because it's specifically all designed for you to realize your dream. The celestial HR is really good at their job. So they've perfectly found you the dream that would match perfectly with what you are. So they're not like delusional fantasies that only privileged people have the privilege of doing, but like everyone has the chance to do their dream. Like in fact, it's like imperative, if not the most important thing for everyone to do, is to follow their dreams, or at least follow their heart in this moment and trust their intuition of doing what they genuinely want to do. You know, even if it's not like a lifelong dream, but it's just like the dream of the moment, the dream of the day, right? As long as they're being honest and pursuing their intuition, their heart, you're doing the work. You're playing the game right. And even if you don't achieve the dream, it doesn't actually matter. What's important is you literally just try and do the dream, to go on the experience of trying to do the dream. Like that's the important thing, to have the experiences of the journey. Like whether it's winning the Oscars or Nobel Peace Prizes, or it's just, you know, living a peaceful life with your family that's happy and healthy, right? Like everyone will have different dreams. Well, I mean, like a dream is sort of like a really big intuitive impulse, right? A really big expression of your truth that is trying to be realized in this reality. But even if you don't have like a lifelong dream, it's like you still have small dreams of the day, right? Like little intuitive impulses. Like as long as you follow your intuition, essentially, which is just God directly coming through to you, then you're doing it as best as you can. But at the same time, like, even if you can intellectually deduce what your dharma is correctly, like what your life purpose or what have you might be, if you're not in the right state of being to do it, then you won't really make progress in it. Because it's like, if you're only intellectually doing it from a mental level, but you're not experiencing it and feeling it in like a core ball visceral heart level, then you're not really having the experience that you're meant to have, right? It's like you're faking the experience and you're creating this like abstract representation of the experience, but you're not like embodied genuinely in the experience. So again, it's not about what you do, right? It's not about the finger pointing to the moon. It's not about what you're actually doing, but it's how you feel on the inside. And you have to sort of like feel true. You have to feel yourself at your core. And then everything you do from that point of that truthful core will be Dharma, will be your dream, will be divine work, right? And regardless of what you do. But if you focus on the what and not on the being of you, then you sort of have the equation backwards. But sometimes like doing the thing, even if you don't feel it, can sometimes switch you and like shift you into the feeling, right? But at the end of the day, what's important is the internal feeling, not so much the dream or the thing you do. And again, your whole existence is to just do that thing and have those experiences. So you have basically infinite chances to have those experiences. Like, you only exist to have certain experiences. So if you haven't had those experiences yet, then the universe will conspire or mold itself in a way so that it can give you the opportunity to have those experiences. Like, if you're alive, you have support, you have chance, you have possibility, you have potential. And karma is the guiding force that puts you back into your dharma when you slip off it too far. So if you imagine like dharma and your dream, let's say it's like this path here, right? And I'm sure you might do side quests and go on detours, and that's all sort of part of the story, right? But it's like, if you go on a detour and a side quest like too far, and it's like, you know, you've had the experience, you learned your lesson, and you've gotten the equipment, the benefit, the armor, whatever from that side quest. Now you need to go back to your main quest and move on. But it's like, if you stay in the side quest area and you keep going in that direction, then karma's gonna come in and be like, boom, nope, this isn't for you. I know it feels good. I know these people are cool, but these aren't your like ultimate soul tribe people or what have you, right? So something's gonna come in to like push you back into the main track, and that's karma. So at its core, it's not like a malicious thing. You know, people talk about karma like it's a bad thing out to get you because you've done something wrong. No, it's like, it's literally just trying to guide you and put you back into your true self. Like, it's a very divine guiding force at the end of the day. And like, it's only painful and abrupt and it seems chaotic when you ignore it for a really long time. Like, it will push you as gently as it needs to, right? But if you're not responding to the gentle pushes, then it gets more and more intense until, you know, you listen. You know, like when you're playing a video game and you try and go into an area where you're not allowed to be in yet, and like this like translucent hexagonal force field comes up and it's like, hey, no, you're not allowed to be there yet. Or like an NPC comes along and it tells you you can't be there and it blocks your way essentially, right? So that's basically karma. Like when you try and go towards a part of your story, your life that you're not meant to go to yet, then it will come in and like, you know, sort of like herd you back to where you should go. Because like if a translucent force field literally appeared before our lives, it would make it really obvious we're playing a god game and sort of ruin the whole illusion of reality, right? So what happens instead is karma will manifest in things like events or people appearing into your lives that will sort of like direct you in certain ways, and it will influence you in certain ways to go towards the direction you're meant to go towards. But this can also show up in like physical symptoms in your body. Like if you're at a place you shouldn't be, hanging out with people you shouldn't be hanging out with, for example, then you might just feel really shit for no reason. Like you might feel really anxious, or you start getting breakouts, or you start coughing, you start getting sick. And there's no like one obvious reason or like one logical like physical reason of like why you might be reacting that way. Because the underlying reason is the vibes are just off. You're not in alignment. You're not where your energy should be. So there's this constant like friction and like grazing between you and the environment or you and the person. And then over time, that's gonna like drain your energy and make you feel weak. Like for example, if you're eating certain foods as well, it's like even if the food is technically like healthy or not that bad, but it's making you feel a certain way, then it's basically karma saying, hey, this isn't the food for you to be eating. This isn't the experience that you should be having. So stop having that experience. Regardless of what people say about that place or that person or that food, even if they say, oh, this place, this person, this food is really good for you, but you feel like shit and you can't explain why, there's no logical reason why, but you just feel bad, it's because you're getting karmaed out. The vibes don't match. Like even if someone is not doing anything overtly to like harm you, but they just feel off and you don't feel good being around them, then I would say take that as a sign to trust that instinct, that feeling, and go somewhere else. And the more you progress on your journey, the more strict karma becomes. Like when you're just starting out, it's like you have more room to fuck around and find out, right? To have more experiences and experimentations. But the more you actually advance, the more specific you become, the more you hone into your actual unique being, right? The tighter basically karma gets. Like before, if you slipped out like this far, it was sort of like, that's when it'll come in, it'll try and push you back. But the more you level up and go on this journey, like it'll get to a point where it's like you slip out a tiny bit, and this tiny bit will feel as bad as if you went that far, because you're getting so much more accurate to where you need to go. And like, and if that happens, like take it, if anything, as a sign that you're on the right track and you're getting closer and closer to your truth. You can imagine it like a cone or a conical drill, where it's like, if you imagine like a drill, like a cone drill, right? That sort of like spirals upwards, right? Like in the beginning, the base is very wide, so you can sort of like spiral in the base area, and you have a lot of room to wiggle. But the more you go up the drill, the closer it gets to the point, and then it's like there's like way less room up here to wiggle, right? Eventually, it's like you spiral, and then it's like. Eventually, you're like completely one with God, and you're in that like pure, true state, woo, the whole time. Then you become the Philosopher's Stone and the Avatar and the ultimate expression of human evolution. Or if you play Fortnite, it's like the storm in Fortnite, of how like the storm, it closes in a certain area, and then if you're in the storm area, you're gonna get damaged. So the only way is to move towards the designated area where you won't get damaged. Like in the beginning, the storm is all the way out here, so you have so much room to like roam around. But as the game progresses, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it hones into like the final spot that you have to be, otherwise you're gonna get damaged. That means being in the right place with the right people, doing the right things that are genuinely right for you. Right being true for you. And that's something only you know. You have to feel from a deep visceral level that this thing is right for you. Right, there's this idea in like Buddhism called Sankhara, where it's like, Sankhara is, for me, I kind of just see it as like a sin, or like something wrong that you've done, or like mistakes that you need to sort of repent for, right? And the only reason we exist is because, let's say there was like an original sin or an original Sankhara that sort of like propelled us into physical reality, in which we need to do our time and repent for our sins and become, good boys and girls, right? But it's like, actually, it's not that we've done something wrong. Like, it's not that we are born sinners in the sense we've done something wrong, but it's like we can only have a game and exist if we had some sort of sin in the first place. It's not that we're sinners in the sense that we've done something wrong, but it's in the fact that we're not perfect, that we have limitations. Like, if anything, that's the original sin. It's the sin. I mean, it's not a sin, but it's like the act of limiting ourselves is what gives us our lives. It gives us the journey to become perfect again, to become like God again. It's like in the sense that like an apple seed, you can say it's a sinner because in a sense, it's not the full realization of the apple tree, right? God is the apple tree, the full realization of the apple tree. We are the apple seeds, right? But just because we're an apple seed, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the seed itself. There's nothing inherently wrong with a seed. It's sort of an imperfect version of the tree, you can say, which is perfectly imperfect. Like that's divine in its own way. We're here to experience our growth from a seed and into a tree. Like that's the sin, you know. If we didn't have the sin, the imperfection, the limitation, we literally wouldn't exist. Like essentially we want to be a sinner in the sense that we want to be imperfect so that we can have the experience of imperfection, right? Like if we didn't have sin, if we weren't sinners in that, you know, quote unquote sense, we literally wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have a game to play. We wouldn't have a journey. And it's like, let's say you go through lifetimes after lifetimes trying to recorrect your sins, your karma, repenting for your sins, and, you know, doing everything you're supposed to do. And then it's like, well, eventually, maybe after like a 1,000 trillion lifetimes, you finally absolve yourself of all your sin, right? But then it's like, well, what happens then? You go to Nirvana, you go back to God. But then it's like game over. You're back to that original infinite primordial state where you're everything everywhere all at once. And you've been there for so many fucking aeons that you're like, fuck, I'm back again. Like, or like, woo, I'm back again. Yay, what a trip, right? It's like, you know, it's this constant expansion and contraction of like inhale and exhale. Like, whoa, I'm everything again. But then it's like, I'm nothing again, right? This constant thing of becoming like God, then becoming everything that's not like God, unlimited, limited, right? You know, like once you reach Nirvana, what are you gonna do? Float around endlessly by yourself in eternal bliss for aeons again? Like, surprise, you've already done that so many fucking times. It's boring. That's why you made a game in the first place, to mix it up. Like Nirvana / heaven is the completion of the God game, right? But like every game, once you finish the game, it's game over. There's nothing else to play. So what do, right? You start another game. You start another sin, another original sin, another Sankhara, another way to limit yourself, another way to be incomplete, another way to be a sinner, so that you can go through all of these lives, all of these journeys to redeem yourself and repent yourself for that sin. You know, but not in a sense of like you've done something wrong and this is all just a punishment that you're trying to, you know, resolve, but you get to just play a game again. And ultimately, it's a very good thing. A jigsaw puzzle is a sinner in the sense that it's not solved. The nirvana or the heaven for the jigsaw is its completion, you know? But like once it's completed, you finish the jigsaw puzzle, like, you know, you just move on to another jigsaw, right? With another sin, with another incompletion, and you play that jigsaw. Or you can just like sit in your house and stare blankly at the walls and your furniture for all time, right? Or, you know, as a different option, you can start another jigsaw puzzle, another sin, another incompletion to complete another game. Nirvana is not better than samsara, heaven is not better than earth, up is not better than down, happiness is not better than sadness, positivity is not better than negativity. It's all the same coin. You know, we may wish to absolve our sins and return to God as quickly as possible, but we don't actually want to do that. Like, at least not that quick. You only have this tiny blip of 80 or so years, you know, supposedly. Well, we'll see how that plays out, right? There's no need to rush. Just enjoy the ride. You're here for an experience. You're here for a game. Experience it. Don't take it so seriously. Live your dreams. Follow your heart. Otherwise, you actually cockblock God. You actually defeat the whole purpose of your existence. The only way to get to nirvana and like finish this whole game is by going through every single experience your soul is wanting to experience, right? You can't speedrun it just by meditating. If you have experiences in the physical world that you need to experience, you can't bypass physical experiences with spirituality. But you also can't like bypass spiritual experiences with physical experiences. Like, you need to have all the experiences that are relevant and destined for you. Once you have all your experiences and you genuinely accept yourself, right, through through thick and thin, through this and that, through every variation of experience that you're meant to experience, and you fully, genuinely feel all the feelings, then it's game over. Then you're done, right? That's like literally you finish everything you could possibly want to do. It's like then maybe the only experiences that are remotely interesting is not going to be the most like bombastic, sensationalistic experiences you've had when you were younger, but it's going to be the really like subtle, internal, pure experiences such as meditation, right? It's like a spiral, right? So once you've done all the bombastic shit at the bottom, and in the middle and the upper parts, and the only experiences left that are remotely interesting are like meditating and things like that, where it's like the least activity-like activities, the least active activities. Then once you finish those experiences, you will leave. Like you will finish a game, and that will take you out, and it will be game over, right? But if you try to skip to that point without going through the gamut of everything else, then it's not gonna work. You're still gonna be pulled back. Karma will pull you back to like do the physical shit that you've signed up. You've actually signed up to do in the first place. The fastest way to beat the game, if you aspire to such a goal, is to fully allow yourself to do the experiences your intuition calls you to do, to fulfill your dreams, do the things you genuinely want to do. Carry out God's plan, fulfill your destiny, your personal legend. I say God's plan, but it's your plan. You planned this for yourself to do, right? Do what you wanted to do. Be who you really are and beam that at maximum output into the universe. Feel all the feelings you feel from it. Full send your truth to the maximum is the most effective tactic available for speedrunning Nirvana / the God game. Once you've milked every piece of gameplay, every achievement, every Easter egg in the game, then you stop playing the game. Then you finish the game. But if there's still gameplay left to be had, you'll keep playing. Living your life to the fullest and completest is the most spiritual thing you can do. That's your only mission in this game, in this God game. As God, from God, by God. As you, as God. Like all the experiences, like even the experiences where you don't feel like you deserve, you're like, oh, I've had this much, but can I really fulfill my dreams? It's like, yes, you fucking can. Like you only have those dreams and those beliefs and that desire and that pull towards it because you genuinely can. And until you realize that and believe that and do it, you're not going to be fucking done. Like it's inevitable. Like you have to, one way or another, one day or another, one lifetime or another, do those things and achieve your dreams. Like even if for a long time you escape from it because you have all this trauma or all these feelings you haven't dealt with, it's like eventually one day, like if you just choose not to escape from it and just earnestly try, you will get there. You can't not get there. Your whole existence is designed for you to get there. It's like you play a game. It's like no matter how shit you are at the game, no matter how many times you die, if you just keep playing, you'll eventually get good enough to beat the game. It's just that you've designed the game so well that you've actually made it possible to feel and believe that you can't beat the game. That's how good of a game you've designed. Like if you could always feel like everything is possible and it's easy, it wouldn't be very interesting. So you've designed it in a way to put enough challenge and limitation to make it juicier for you when you finally do beat it. But at the end of the day, the underlying truth is you can beat it because you've designed it to be beatable. Even if it seems impossible, you can, otherwise you wouldn't be playing the game. Like you wouldn't make a game that's not beatable, right? Yeah, maybe if you're like a shitty game developer, but God is the best game developer in the world. He's the God of games, right? He is, he's just God of God, right? So you can beat it. You can succeed. You can't not succeed, essentially. Like God is your literal wingman to do the things that God has assigned you to do. And once you've really had your fun and you lived your life to the fullest, then you can meditate in the mountains for 22 hours and that will take you out of the game. But until then, you have more gameplay to play. And actually, everyone is doing their best to finish the game. Like even if the people that you judge as like, horribly the uncultured swines doing really stupid shit, it's like they're actually going through the experience that they need to go through in order to evolve to the parts of themselves that would get them to the divine realms from whence they came. But they have to go through like the shitty, uncultured experiences or what have you to sometimes get there. So no matter how bad or how much we may judge other people, they're all doing their best in their own way, even if their best seems really questionable. Sometimes you just have to go through the experiences, you know, and it's like to give grace to not only them, but to yourself when you're going through bad times or being someone maybe that you don't like or you feel like you should be. It's like, well, look, you are what you are. Be honest with how you are in this moment. It's all divine. It's all love. It's all for the experience as part of the game. As long as you're upfront and honest about who you are, how you're feeling, and you're going through the experiences as earnestly as you can, you know, God cannot ask any more of you. You're doing the thing. So thank you. If you enjoyed this video, I appreciate you. If you want to get the book, I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I hope it has inspired you to live your life a little bit more fully, truthfully, happily, and lovingly as yourself. Because it is just a game. You don't have to take it that seriously. And yeah, I hope you live the life you genuinely want to live or designed to live, that you actually should live, if anything.